I enjoyed our conversation with Jeannette Eastin of RefoundEd. Afterwards, we discussed an important step in the process of establishing microschools. Their location. Jeannette, what type of educational experiences are you seeing right now, and how are those models influencing location?
So we're starting to see a lot of very creative opportunities start to come out. Now we see forest schools. We even have one school that expanded south of the border where they have a jungle school. Some schools,
It's a jungle school.
they're learning in the jungle, they're connected with nature. They're surrounded by animals. If you're, a lot of people will also do it like on a homestead. The types of
Mhm.
animals and the different experiences that will be different than like a jungle school. Like a jungle school will have monkeys and different kinds of exotic animals, where a homestead type of environment would have goats and pigs and chickens. And then there's the forest school where they learn how to and other different connections with nature. Some even have yurts, which is it's a fixed building, but it can be set up anywhere. But of course, there are certain things associated with that in the land development stage. Tiny homes have become a thing. So sometimes they'll have like modular kind of options on a property. I've even seen someone convert a school bus into a
Oh,
mobile learning environment.
that's cool.
So there are no limits on how people can create, and even educators now are having multiple revenue streams. So they might have a virtual option where they share their curriculum, a more passive income stream. Then they have maybe a school, and maybe they do part-time classes in something else. So they're
Right.
starting to stack their different offerings, and all those different offerings come with different expectations in terms of virtual, of course, has it's very flexible, but your in person would have different regulations. And even if you have a bunch of trailers on a property, what does that mean? There's really whatever rules you thought were in place for education. I do
Yes.
encourage people to cut out the rules, the regulations, everything they thought, and really focus on curating experience that aligns with their lifestyle and their ideals.
Okay. So it's more than reading, writing, or arithmetic. It's getting into nature. It's just different things, whatever the parent or the child like to see, but also the different locations that can happen.
Absolutely. Or even a more tech-centered environment will have different
Exactly.
expectations, or a sports school that focuses
Yes.
mostly on sports. You would need to have different expectations in terms of like location and what you would find ideal. Because something that's needs a field would you would need something more industrial or large scale. But if it's something more like individual, you might not need that kind of space.
So that leads to my next question. How can educators choose a space that can still work as their program grows?
Essentially, you might not be able to facilitate everything. We've had some smaller schools, they have a local community center and they have a contract where they can rent out some of their space for larger activities. As you grow, you might want to have some of those things in-house because the budget wouldn't allow for having such a large space right off the bat. But if
Right.
you can bridge into community and what they have available, you might be able to find solutions.
Okay. So how does Refound Ed support educators after they secured their space? What comes next in terms of licensing, setting up, or launching?
So we have a community that can help. So even from we share supplies, if any of us are getting rid of some of our things, we can barter, we can sell, we exchange our knowledge pool so we can help the whole process we have laid out in very simplified ways. Also the loopholes with that simplified process. What are things that you need to look at? Because these are creative. You're going to teach in the forest or you're going to be teaching in the park. Like someone, for example, was doing music lessons in the park. So what does that involve? A permit or there's certain things that come with different solutions, and we help with that creative problem solving because everything can bring up certain obstacles and we need to be able to unify that brain pool to make your life easier. And why make it harder than it needs to
Yeah.
be when everybody already knows what the next steps could be for you? And the more hands on deck, the more brains you have in the pool, the easier the outcomes you will get in terms of solving those issues that come up for you.
Okay. That's great.
And Arlie,
Yes.
when educators are deciding whether to build, rent, or convert a space, what key factors should they consider, and what are some of the pros and cons of each option? We have found that maybe they have a building and they want to slowly expand, put an exterior building.
Yes.
What does that mean? Or add a yurt, or there's so many of these things that are coming up, and what
Right.
needs to be considered with that?
Yeah, like an ADU or conversion. So let's break it down. That's actually a great question. When choosing between building, renting, or converting a space, educators should consider factors like budgets, timeline, zoning, and the long-term vision of their schools. So building new offers the most flexibility in design and layout, allowing you to create a space tailored for your community needs. However, it can be costly and time consuming. Renting, on the other hand, is often quicker and less cost intensive, making it a good option for starting small and testing out a local market. The downside is less control over the space and potential rental increases. Next is converting existing spaces can be a cost-effective way to repurpose a building, especially if you find a property that has good bones. But it may come with some limitations in layout or zoning restrictions that require careful navigation. Ultimately, the best choice depends on your budget, your goals, and your community needs. Working with experts can help you weigh these options wisely and find the best fit for your vision.
Oh, I love that because everybody thinks like modular options, those small houses, oh, we'll just throw them up. Next thing you know, you have people knocking at your door, and that ends up costing you more money. Doing that due diligence is so important.
Yeah, have you heard of NIMBY?
No.
Acronym is not in my backyard. So your neighbors might not be happy with this. So you just want to make sure that you're in the right zone and your neighbors or the community is supportive of your project. Very
Oh,
important.
such important key factors. What types of properties are you seeing the most success with for alternative or micro schools right now?
Right now, we're seeing lots of success with smaller adaptable properties. Think converting commercial spaces, existing residential homes, or mixed use buildings that fall into proper zoning. These options allow schools to create community centric, inspiring environments without the high costs of traditional buildings. The key is finding properties with development potential and zoning that supports educational use, which we can help identify through thorough analysis.
I love that. And for those that are new to the realm of property development, especially educators, Arlie is talking about mixed use. Some of those commercial spaces, we've had some schools start off with a storefront
Yes.
and they have a smaller education program inside, and then they've grown to a secondary space once the growth warranted. They had enough of a waiting list where they would have to expand, and then of course the waiting list would support that growth because the money is available and your population is ready to jump on your idea and they love what you're doing. And you can grow according to, you don't have to go to the big dream right away, and those big dreams are important, but those small, that middle area where you're growing, there's so many options.
Yeah. In our previous conversation, we talked about the evolution.
Mm.
Some people that are starting these micro schools want to start small, and then as more families discover these opportunities, this alternative, they want to jump into this. So you want to make sure that your school can be scalable, that you can grow with it. So you want to obviously have that space to grow.
Oh, definitely. And I think we're going to see grassroots grow more and more until it becomes mainstream. And then we'll see how funding changes when it comes to communities. And so those changes will bring new solutions that are needed.
Yeah,
And um,
absolutely.
we're here for you guys as they grow. What advice would you give to someone trying to stay cost effective but still end up with a functional, inspiring school space?
My best advice is to focus on strategic planning from the start. Looking for properties with existing zoning that aligns with your vision and consider converting or repurposing spaces rather than building from scratch. This can save you a lot of money. Prioritize flexible, multi-use areas that can adapt as your community and school grows. Also, work with professionals who understand development and zoning. This can help you avoid costly surprises and maximize your investment. Remember, a thoughtful design that emphasizes connection and community can turn an economical space into an inspiring learning environment that truly supports your mission.
And maybe an option too for some educators, maybe you're starting off in a church
Oh,
or a space that isn't very used by day. That would provide a good starting point, and the zoning is already in place. And then you can start working towards planning what your next step would be. And Arlie can help with some of that planning process too.
yeah. So, Jeanette, I have a question for you. How do people find you? How do they get a hold of you to learn more about microschools?
You can contact me at info@refounded.ca, and feel free to go to our website, refounded.ca, and also our social media, which is Refound Education, and also Refound Ed on some other platforms. Our biggest platform is Instagram, and we are growing across all channels. And for some reason, our Snapchat is quite big
Oh,
just because
great.
it appeals to the young ones, right? And that's the generation we wanna capture, so we're really
Absolutely.
glad that we're growing. And how about you, Arlie? How can people get a hold of you to get your help?
They can go to my website, arliga.com, or they can just find me on social media at Arley Green. Slide in my DMs and get a hold of me, and I'd be happy to help you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for extending your expertise into the education community.
Oh, I can say the same to you. I love the evolution and I love being part of it.
Yes, and your open-mindedness to it. I think it's time that we recreate a future that is optimistic and centered around humanity and our growth as a collective. Thank you.
Sounds amazing. Thank you.